Pecos Bill, the cowboy who challenged nature. Some legends aren't written in books. They live on in laughter, in the wind, and in the admiring eyes of those who retell them. And Pecos Bill was one such legend, the cowboy who rode lightning, tamed tornadoes, and turned the Wild West into his personal playground. You're about to embark on an adventure unlike any other, where every law is challenged, and one cowboy with a heart as fiery as the Texas desert will show you what it means to be a true American legend. Chapter 1. The Abandoned Child, Raised by Wolves. Once upon a time, in the American West, a land of burning red soil and winds howling like the voice of nature itself, a young boy fell from his family's wagon during their journey to the frontier. It happened as they crossed the Pecos River, and in a bumpy turn, the boy tumbled off unnoticed. No one knew what would become of a child lost in the wild, except for the creatures who lived with the sand and wind. A pack of wolves, yes, real wolves, found him. But instead of tearing him apart as we might expect, they raised him as one of their own. Pecos Bill, the name folks would later call him, grew up running on all fours, howling at the full moon, and playing tag with rattlesnakes. Nothing was too dangerous. For Bill, rolling down a mountain cliffside was just his morning warm-up. And that was only the beginning. Do you believe a boy raised by wolves could one day tame the entire Wild West? If your answer is not sure, then you better stick around for Chapter 2, when Pecos Bill meets humans again and rides a horse for the very first time. Hit like, subscribe, and share if you want to keep riding along with the legend of Pecos Bill. Chapter 2. When Pecos Bill met humans again and rode his first horse. One day, when Pecos Bill had grown as tall as an oak tree and as strong as a wild buffalo, he lay on a cliff looking down at the strange land below. There he saw odd creatures walking on two legs, dressed in strange clothes, and riding animals with long manes. They didn't howl, they didn't roar, they just said silly things like, "Howdy," and "Yeehaw." That was the first time Pecos Bill saw humans again, and he was curious. Bill silently crawled down, like a wild wolf stalking its prey, until he got close to a cowboy camp. A ranch hand jumped back, yelling loudly, "What in the world is that? Is it a person or a wild demon?" Pecos Bill didn't answer. He just looked at the biggest, wildest, hardest to tame horse, the one that everyone at the camp feared, and walked towards it. The horse neighed loudly, reared up on its hind legs, and kicked the air. But to Bill, it was just a small game. He jumped onto its back as if he'd been riding for a lifetime. The horse bucked, kicked, spun like a tornado, but Pecos Bill stayed firm, grinning ear to ear, his hair flying in the wind. After a long, earth-shaking struggle, the horse finally stopped, exhausted. It had been tamed. Pecos Bill patted its neck and named it, "I'll call you Widowmaker," because no one can ride you and survive, except me." From that moment on, Bill became a true cowboy. Do you think Pecos Bill only knows how to ride horses? Wait until you see how he rides lightning. Don't miss Chapter 3, The Showdown with the Western Thunderbolt. If you're enjoying the ride, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and share so the legend continues to spread. Chapter 3, The Showdown with the Western Lightning. The West wasn't just known for its red earth, wild buffalo, and notorious outlaws. It was also home to storms so fierce, they seemed like gods in a rage. And on one July night, when dark clouds gathered like a pack of hunting beasts, a bolt of lightning struck the ground with such force that every living thing took shelter. But not Pecos Bill. While people ran into barns, cows hid in caves, and trees bowed down before the wind, Pecos Bill walked out into the storm, standing in the open field, looking up at the sky and shouting, "Come on down if you've got the guts, I'll ride you." And the sky listened. A lightning bolt, as thick as a tree trunk and as bright as the soul of the wilderness, shot straight down to where Bill stood. But instead of being burned to ashes, Pecos Bill grabbed the lightning bolt like a bridle, spun around, and jumped onto its back. He rode the lightning. Yes, rode it like a wild horse, tearing through the clouds, cutting through the sky like a streak of crazy light. Every kick of the lightning was a thunderous roar. Every loop was a gust of wind that knocked down trees. The folks in the West say, that night they saw a figure riding fire across the night sky, tossing his cowboy hat as if playing with the thunder gods themselves. When the lightning finally faded, Pecos Bill landed back on the ground, his hair standing up like a steel brush, his eyes blazing like fire, and he laughed. Do you think that was Pecos Bill's greatest feat? Not even close. Because next, he'll face off with a massive tornado. Stay tuned for Chapter 4, The Battle with the Monster Twister. If you think Bill deserves to be a true legend, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Chapter 4, The Battle with the Tornado Beast. One day, the western sky suddenly turned dark purple. Winds howled like the cries of demons, and the ground trembled as if even the heart of the desert began to shake. A tornado. This wasn't just any tornado. It was a gigantic beast from the sky, with a storm eye as wide as 3 football fields, towering all the way up to the clouds, roaring so fiercely that wild cattle ran in fear, and houses flew through the air like falling leaves. The locals could only run. But Pecos Bill sharpened his lasso. Here it is, finally, something that excites me. He rode out into the plains, atop Widowmaker, heading straight for the eye of the storm. Dust whipped his face, the wind tore at his clothes, but Bill didn't even blink. As the tornado came closer, swirling everything into the air, Bill threw his giant lasso. a rope he had braided himself from rattlesnake skin and lion's mane. At least, that's what the legend says. The rope soared through the air and landed right around the tornado's neck. And then, the battle began. Bill was lifted into the sky, tangled around the storm as if riding a mad dragon. He gripped the lasso tightly, his legs clinging to the whirling vortex, each twist accompanied by a howl of thunder, each kick from Bill like a lightning strike. They struggled for 7 days and 7 nights, crossing 3 states, leaving behind the marks, those canyons, deep ravines, and furrows that still remain in the West today. Finally, Bill tamed the tornado, making it his steed whenever he needed to travel quickly, and he named it Twister, the Howling Madness. After riding lightning and conquering a tornado, do you think there's anything Pecos Bill can't do? In Chapter 5, you'll witness love come into the picture, and Bill meets the woman who makes even the desert blush, Slue-Foot Sue. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share if you're following Pecos Bill's wild but inspiring journey. Chapter 5. Slue-Foot Sue, the girl who made the desert blush. One day, under the scorching heat of the West, as Pecos Bill rode on Twister, his tame tornado, a strange figure appeared in the vast desert. It was a girl, Slue-Foot Sue, with legs so long she could step over the Pecos River without getting her feet wet. She was unlike anyone Pecos Bill had ever met. The other girls were beautiful in a gentle way, but Sue was different. She had the power of a storm and the pride of a mountain. She walked across the desert without needing a horse, just worn-out boots and a wide-brimmed hat, but her steps were as powerful as a tornado. Pecos Bill had never seen anyone like her. "Howdy, Slue-Foot Sue," Bill said, his voice booming like thunder. Sue turned, her eyes shining like desert stars, her smile as bright as the sun peeking out after a storm. "Howdy, Pecos Bill. I hear you can ride a tornado. I want to see how you do it." Pecos Bill couldn't help but laugh. "Well, you're not much different from a tornado yourself, Sue. But do you want to try riding this tornado?" Bill said, pointing at Twister roaring beneath them. Slue-Foot Sue didn't hesitate. "If you can ride that tornado, then so can I." She leapt onto Twister's back, making the wild tornado spin, just like an actual storm. Sue and the tornado raced across the field, stirring up winds that turned into a sandstorm, leaving a trail of dust clouds behind them. But no one could ride Twister longer than Bill. He signaled, and the tornado came to a halt. Sue jumped off, laughing as bright as spring, making Pecos Bill feel a little flutter in his heart. It's clear that when Pecos Bill met Slue-Foot Sue, everything changed. But can their love survive the challenges ahead? Stay tuned for Chapter 6, The Endless Adventure of the Western Lovers. If you enjoyed the story, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share so you don't miss any part of this wild journey. Chapter 6: The Endless Adventure of the Western Lovers. After Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue had ridden through the tornado and shared romantic glances in the desert, they decided not to stop. They were an unstoppable couple, a strange duo that even the stars in the western sky couldn't help but admire. They began their adventure with a simple goal: nothing is impossible. Indeed, with a cowboy who could tame lightning and a girl who could run faster than a tornado, no one could predict where they would go next. One day, they came to a large river, its waters rushing as forcefully as a hungry boa constrictor. Pecos Bill mounted his horse, gazing at the challenging river, and said, "Sue, do you think we can cross it?" Sue didn't answer immediately. She stood there, tilting her head as if calculating something. After a moment, she smiled, stepped toward a large rock, and began hopping up and down, her legs kicking as if she were about to take off. "We won't swim," she said firmly. "We'll jump." And then she leapt into the air, crossing the river as if she were jumping on solid ground. Not only did she clear the river, but she also created such a massive wave that even the fish beneath it were taken by surprise. Pecos Bill watched in amazement and then burst out laughing. "Sue, I've seen many strange things in my life, but I've never seen anyone jump over a river like that." Sue turned back, still wearing her proud smile. "You think that's impressive? Wait till you see what I'll do with that snake ahead." At that moment, a giant snake appeared, its body as long as a bridge. It lay across the path, coiled around rocks, ready to block the lovers' way. Pecos Bill grinned mischievously. "Sue, let me handle this one." But Sue stopped him. "No, this time it's my turn. I've defeated snakes longer than this one." And so she leapt forward, grabbed the giant snake, and with a powerful swing, wrapped it up, performing a cosmic dance between the earth and sky. How many more challenges will this couple face? And can they stay together for life like other legends? There are surely many more surprises in the story of Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue. Don't miss Chapter 7, The Battle with the Western Outlaws. If you're enjoying this adventure, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share so your friends can follow along too. Chapter 7: The Battle with the Western Outlaws. As Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue leisurely rode through the western plains, suddenly they saw a huge cloud of dust rolling up from the distance. The sound of hooves and shouting echoed through the air. A gang of outlaws was charging toward them. "More outlaws," Pecos Bill said, squinting toward the horizon. "This time, it's definitely not the usual troublemakers around here." Slue-Foot Sue smiled, unbothered. "We can handle them. But I'll admit, I do enjoy a good fight with those who are envious." Pecos Bill laughed. "Sue, This time I'll let you handle it, but don't forget, I have my own plan." The outlaw gang kept charging, a group of mean-spirited men armed with guns, knives, and filthy cowboy hats. Their leader had a strange name, Rusty Rattlesnake, a notorious gunslinger rumored to be able to shoot down a beast with just one bullet. But instead of backing down, Sue calmly pulled the reins and charged straight into the middle of the gang. "You think you can beat a girl like me?" she shouted, causing all the outlaws to pause for a moment. Rusty Rattlesnake spoke up. "You want to die fast or slow?" Sue looked at him, then shrugged challengingly. "Definitely not dying. And if you want to try, I'll show you a lesson." With unbelievable speed, Sue dove into the outlaws, defeating each one with kicks and acrobatic twists. No outlaw could keep up with her. Meanwhile, Pecos Bill stood back, clapping in approval. "She really is a legend," Bill said, then turned to look at the now frightened outlaws. "But I think I'll join in a little." Without another word, Pecos Bill mounted Widowmaker, grabbed the reins, and charged into battle. All the outlaws froze when they saw Bill riding like the wind, decisive and unstoppable. He cleared them out with precise lashings of his whip, forcing all the outlaws to kneel and surrender. Rusty Rattlesnake realized this was not a fight he could win. Before he could shoot, Pecos Bill swung his whip, knocking the gun from his hand. "This isn't how you survive, you highwaymen," Pecos Bill said, his eyes stern. Having defeated the notorious gang of outlaws, Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue proved themselves an untouchable legendary couple. But will they face more challenges ahead? Of course. Stay tuned for Chapter 8, The Journey to Dragon Peak. If you love this story, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share to continue following the endless adventure of Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue. Chapter 8, The Journey to Dragon's Peak. After their triumphant victory over the outlaw gang, Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue continued their relentless adventure. While they were still excited by the challenges of the Wild West, a mysterious tale reached their ears, a legend about Dragon's Peak, where a massive dragon lived in hiding, guarding a priceless treasure. "The treasure must be something truly magical," Sue said, her eyes sparkling. "But if there's a dragon, there will definitely be danger." Pecos Bill nodded, a sly smile spreading across his face. "I love a good challenge. And if any dragon dares to stop us, I'll show it what a real cowboy from the West is made of." The two of them prepared to set off, as determined as two storms about to hit the ocean. They traveled across barren deserts, through dark forests, and climbed steep mountain ranges. Finally, after facing countless hardships, they stood before Dragon's Peak, tall, shrouded in mist, as if hiding something immense and mysterious. As they approached the peak, they began to hear rumbling sounds from above, like the blades of a giant airplane spinning. "There's definitely something here," Bill said, gripping the reins tightly, his eyes sharp. Suddenly, a powerful gust of wind swept through, and a massive shadow appeared in the sky. It was the dragon. Its wings stretched wide like giant sails, its eyes glowing like fiery torches. "We found the dragon," Sue said, her voice calm, but with a fiery spark in her eyes. "But I think I can handle this." The dragon roared a thunderous roar, making the heavens and earth seem to tremble. It dove toward them at incredible speed, its wings beating the air, sending shock waves that made Pecos Bill and Sue cling to their horses. Sue was not afraid. She jumped onto the dragon as if it were just another horse, controlling it with the skill of a seasoned cowboy. Pecos Bill was no less impressive. He cracked his long whip, striking at the dragon's scales. Each strike was so precise that it made the dragon hiss in pain. "We can't let this dragon win," Pecos Bill said, his eyes blazing with determination. "Sue, how do we make it listen to us?" Sue grinned mischievously. "We'll wear it out. This dragon doesn't know how to endure for long." With unbelievable speed, Sue and Pecos Bill worked together, turning the battle into a dance of strategy and skill. They didn't attack the dragon recklessly. Instead, they patiently used tactics to wear it down. Finally, after a relentless struggle, the dragon roared one final, resounding cry, but then it landed on the ground, exhausted and subdued before the legendary duo. Will Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue be able to conquer the treasure the dragon is guarding? And will they uncover the strange mysteries hidden beneath Dragon's Peak? Of course. Stay tuned for Chapter 9, The Treasure Beneath the Mountain. If you love this journey, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and share to continue following Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue on their legendary adventure. Chapter 9, The Treasure Beneath the Mountain. After conquering the mighty dragon, Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue stood atop Dragon's Peak, where the cold winds still howled through the cracks in the rocks. But instead of feeling exhausted, they felt a surge of energy, as though the real treasure was waiting for them below. "Something's not right," Pecos Bill said, his eyes scanning the peak. "If there's treasure, why can't I see any signs of it?" Sue shrugged, unconcerned. "Secrets are never easy to find, Bill. But I have a feeling this treasure has something more interesting than we expect." The two of them walked down a narrow path between the rocks. The surrounding mountains seemed to form a mysterious circle around them. Just a little further, and they would reach the hidden treasure they had fought so hard for. But as they neared the base of the mountain, they came upon a massive stone door, engraved with strange symbols. It seemed to lead to a mysterious world that no one had dared to touch. Pecos Bill reached out, trying to push the door. But it didn't move. Sue gazed at the symbols on the door and then began reading them in a calm voice. "Hey, I know this. It's an ancient incantation. It requires the one who opens the door to have both courage and intelligence." Pecos Bill looked at Sue, his eyes full of skepticism. "So, what do you think we should do to open it?" Sue smiled confidently. "We'll do exactly what I think. First, we don't just use force, we have to solve a riddle." With a mischievous grin, Sue turned back to the door and began reading the strange words. Although everything seemed unclear at first, Sue persisted and eventually discovered the hidden key. The door slowly creaked open, revealing a light-filled temple where the treasure awaited them. Once inside, Pecos Bill and Sue felt as though they had entered another world. Precious gems sparkled like stars, and there was a vault filled with gold, silver, and jewels, all beneath ancient stone pillars. Sue looked around, her eyes lighting up. So the treasure really is here. But don't forget, nothing comes for free. As soon as they stepped further in, an odd sound echoed from a dark corner of the temple. A shadow appeared, growing larger and larger. It was a massive stone monster, guarding the treasure. It roared and the ground began to shake. Pecos Bill glanced at Sue, his expression determined. "Sue, I'll handle this part. You focus on uncovering the mysteries behind this place." Sue nodded, ready. Bill cracked his whip, and the battle began. Will Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue be able to defeat the monster guarding the treasure and uncover all the secrets of this temple? Find out in Chapter 10, The Final Battle and the Secrets Behind the Treasure. If you love this adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to continue exploring the magical secrets with Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue. Chapter 10. The Final Battle and the Secret Behind the Treasure. The massive stone monster stood before them, its muscular body like giant boulders, eyes glowing red like fire, roaring so loudly that the entire temple shook. Pecos Bill swung his whip with all his might, striking the hard stone, but it didn't even budge. Sue quickly realized that with just brute strength, they wouldn't be able to defeat the monster. "We need a different strategy," she shouted. Pecos Bill frowned, his eyes still locked on the monster. "What do you mean?" Sue smiled slightly, her eyes full of confidence. "This monster is made of stone, right? And if I'm right, it won't be able to withstand heat." She immediately turned around, using one of the tools she always carried. A small copper hammer. Sue swung the hammer hard into a nearby oil lamp, causing the flames to burst into life. The fire quickly spread, engulfing the temple. The stone monster tossed its head violently, roaring as if to charge at them. However, as it came into contact with the flames, cracks began to appear on its rocky body. "Thanks, Sue," Pecos Bill said with a satisfied grin. "Now I'll finish it off." Bill approached the stone monster, his eyes burning with determination. He expertly used his whip, striking the cracks on the monster's body. A powerful blow finally shattered the monster into thousands of stone fragments, which fell to the ground. When the monster had finally shattered, all that remained was a pile of rubble. A secret door opened from within the temple, and before Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue stood a chamber full of secrets they had never imagined. Sue stepped forward, her eyes full of curiosity. "I feel like there's something strange here. This treasure isn't just gold and jewels, it's something more valuable." Pecos Bill looked around, and his eyes lit up when he saw an ancient box, intricately carved. The two of them approached it, and Sue opened the box. Inside was a carefully preserved scroll of parchment. As the scroll unrolled, ancient symbols appeared, prophecies about the future of the West. It revealed that the real treasure wasn't gold or silver, but the wisdom and strength of the heroes, those who would fight to protect justice and freedom. "The real treasure isn't material wealth," Pecos Bill said, his voice full of awe. "It's the lesson we must learn." Sue nodded, feeling an invisible strength from the scroll. "The most valuable thing we have isn't what we own, but what we can do to change this world." Thus, Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue's journey came to an end with a profound lesson about the true value of treasure. These heroes didn't fight for gold and jewels, but for something greater, spiritual values and knowledge that could change the world. Will they continue their adventure or begin a new journey? Their story doesn't end here. If you enjoyed Pecos Bill and Slue-Foot Sue's adventure, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to follow more fascinating stories.